Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Alumni in the Industry. We have our December episode here with Liz Ernst. Basically, this is a platform where we bring back alumni who have graduated from Iceland School of Energy and are out in the world and doing cool things. And we bring them back to speak to our community here, potentially community abroad, prospective students. This recording will then go on YouTube as well. And yeah, so I'll leave it for Liz to introduce herself. But basically, the format of this talk is going to be just 30 minutes or so presentation.
Yeah.
And then after that, we'll open up for Q&A. Yeah, so I guess without further ado, Liz, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lori. And I'm very happy to be asked to do this. In some ways, I feel like I made it somewhere. So that's definitely validating. As Lori said, my name is Liz Ernst. I did graduate from ISE in 2019. And currently I'm working as a sustainability analyst at Sonoco, which is a packaging company based in North America. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about, where I come from, what my background is, what life in ISE was like, and some of the coursework that I took, the internship in Finland that I have, which was pretty, I would say, got me to where I am today, and what I did for my thesis, my attempt at a PhD, and also, what I do, of course, now in the industry for Sunoco. So just for context, I come from the Chicago suburbs, which corner's frozen. That's okay. It's in the middle of the country. You can see it. It's highlighted in the center. Born there, raised there, went to high school there. I don't know if they do this in Europe, but in America, high school seniors, which is grade 12, will elect and fill out a sheet and nominate students, most likely to wind up in jail, most likely to graduate Harvard, that kind of thing. It's called a superlative. My high school superlative was most opinionated out of 800 students, which I'm sure was very fun for my high school teachers. So after, graduating high school, I moved on to university. I went to the University of Iowa from 2010 to 2014. It was a formative time in my life, not the best. I majored in ethics and public policy, which was very interesting. It was a conglomeration of sociology, economics, as well as philosophy, all focusing around studying our judiciary system in the US from an extra legal perspective. So I took really interesting courses like tort law and economics, the law and society, juvenile justice, British philosophers of the modern era, graduate level philosophy courses. So really different approach to college. My end goal in all this was law school. That didn't happen, and that's okay. I also minored in religious studies from a non-theological perspective. It was secular. I was just interested in where religion came from and its context in a Judeo-Christian tradition. I have a lot of interests, and I think I wasn't able to express that very well in college. So I had a lot of random coursework. I took biblical Aramaic and can still say the alphabet in old Aramaic. So very different. I did cool stuff though. I joined the rowing team. I was a coxswain, which is, you can see me, I'm sorry, the laser pointer is frozen, but I'm the tiny person in the front of the boat who encourages the rowers. So I was basically a cheerleader for very tall, strong women, which, if you know me, is a funny statement to say. And I was also the head of the LGBT club. I was the president of we called it GlibTow. So I managed programming for that. And I also ran programs out of one of the campus ministries for at-risk LGBT youth. So I did some cool stuff. It was kind of random though. So I wasn't able to build that into a career right out of undergrad. Worked for corporate America for a few years and got really interested in sustainability around 2016. became vegan. That was sort of my gateway into sustainability in the first place. Yeah. And learned a lot, read a lot, watched a lot. And my sister and I, this story will make me sound like a hopeless romantic. I can't dispute that. But my sister and I went to Europe, and on the way back from Paris, we stopped in Reykjavik, and I had a 10-hour layover at Keflavik. So we hopped on the fly bus and saw the city for 10 hours. I sat at Cafe Babalu, sort of fell in love with it, and thought this would be great if I could combine graduate school as well as Iceland, and applied to ISE, found it. 6 months later, I was living in Iceland. So I got what I wanted. It was a fantastic period in my life. I was coming from a non-science bachelor's, so I took the courses required for those who weren't coming from an engineering background, like energy technology, but I also took environmental impact assessment, energy financial assessment. In Finland, I took an advanced course in life cycle assessment, which got me my job that I have today. And of course, business research methodology. I just included a few sort of highlights. It was fantastic in the sense that, you know, we're living and working with students from all over the world. You're learning about new cultural norms and people's backgrounds and how to bridge over that to collaborate effectively. And when you take yourself out of your cultural habits and comfort zones, that's when you really grow as a person. But of course, it's, as we all know who have been through this, students current and past, that can be difficult. I really can't tell my story without mentioning mental health. I really struggled when I was in Iceland. It's detracted from the experience, I think, but I still would do it all over again because of what I still have. And, you know, we climbed, the bottom picture is myself at the top of Mount Esha at midnight. Like, come on, Iceland's great. But, you know, I love the friendships that I made, and, you know, Iceland School of Energy got me where I am today. So pretty great. And I also had some odd jobs when I worked in Iceland. As we all know, it's expensive. And over the summer, I got a job working at Hringrás, which I believe means green circle. I know Hring is circle. I'm not sure if Grás is green, but we'll go with it for now. And it was a MRF. It was a material recovery facility, essentially for metal. And I was the only woman who worked there. We got a basically payload of metal scrap delivered, dumped in front of us, and we had full PPE, as you can see, and a magnet, and we're told to go find the iron and ferrous, non-ferrous material. If we could find copper, amazing. If we could find aluminum, great. Any sort of valuable metal was recovered. It was a good experience because I worked with a sector of Icelandic society I probably would never have met because it was a blue collar job, which is different from what you interact with as a student. Definitely experienced some misogyny because I was the only woman who worked there. But again, it was a great insight into how international our material recovery is for recycling. So Iceland doesn't have the capacity and infrastructure to recycle its own metal. So we would get a ship in once a month that we would load all the iron material onto with a giant crane you can see in the middle there. I got to drive it. That was pretty cool. Everyone was on break, so no one was in danger of me crushing them with a steel I-beam. But I did get to also drive a forklift, which was pretty cool. So we would load the iron onto the boat, and then the boat Turkey would purchase the metal, and they would have the capacity there to recycle it, because recycling usually is only profitable when you can do it at scale. So really opened my mind to, okay, what's going on with recycling and material recovery, that it is this global phenomenon. And so as a part of the degree, we did have to do a internship. And throughout that period of looking, I sort of cold emailed a lot of projects all over Europe. I emailed the European Commission, sent them my resume, just very much just communicated to us that, you know, we're not going to hand you an internship, but if you want to go out there and put the effort in to get it, we'll support you. So I found one. I found the project in Finland. It's a national project still ongoing called Circ Waste, where they are implementing different aspects of the circular economy in across all sectors, or a lot of different sectors, with focus on eliminating waste and increasing material recovery. So as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see Lappeenranta. For context, to the right of that is Russia, to the left of that is Sweden, if you're not sure where Finland is located. So we were 15 kilometers from the Russian border, which was also culturally interesting to work with a lot of Russian students and learn their stories. And here's where I learned life cycle assessment. So they took me through a course on life cycle assessment, and I was able to build a thesis off of the internship. And the professors from Lappeenranta University of Technology were my supervisors. So fantastic. It felt like I downloaded. It's one thing implementing a methodology that you recently learned at a master's level thesis is very difficult. So I always felt as though my brain was the matrix and I was just downloading all of this information every day, which was exhausting. You know, again, moving again to a country a year after getting settled in Iceland, where I didn't know anyone and didn't speak the language. And you can sort of fake it in Icelandic a little bit, just a little bit, but you really can't in Finnish because it's not related to English at all. So difficult. But again, learn how to culturally work with people who had very different. Finns are very culturally, and I don't want to generalize, but a joke was made across the country during COVID that they didn't need to socially distant because they were already socially distant. So you can imagine Americans have our own norms when we're interacting with each other. Didn't really blend well with stoic, quiet Finnicism, or stoic Finns, anyway, it was a little bit difficult to bridge that gap, but great experience and fantastic. It gave me the skills that I now use in my job today. And I did my thesis on an environmental and economic evaluation of construction and demolition waste-based wood composite pallets and 2 virgin wood pallets. I would change the name if I had to do it again, I'm not gonna lie. But essentially what I did was I looked at the products we were making with construction and demolition waste, which was a composite material made of wood and plastic. And they use that to make a pallet, which we use in all over the world. Every supply chain uses pallets. And I compared it to just a standard wood one with the reference flow of 100 trips, or excuse me, 1,000 trips through the supply chain. And so, you know, we found out that it would take about 7 composite pallets to run through a supply chain 1,000 times and 12 wood pallets. So I compared them from an environmental perspective and did a life cycle assessment. We can always look back on our past work and be an armchair quarterback. I know I would do things differently now, but I was really proud of what I did because I took a methodology that I didn't know and implemented it at a very high level. So we built out full product systems for each product I was comparing, and did a full life cycle assessment from start to finish. You know, very grateful. I don't know, I'm not sure if anyone from Lappeenranta is on the call, but I'm very grateful for the professors there and what I learned. And of course, the support from ISE, because I couldn't have done it without funding. But we found that in every life cycle stage, and you'll see that on the right, from raw material sourcing to production, the wood pallet, which is blue in these graphs, was environmentally better from a carbon perspective. These are carbon footprint charts. But in the use phase for the supply chain I designed, the wood plastic composite pallet performed better because it was lighter, because you needed less of them to complete 1,000 trips. So the conclusion was, you know, if you used the wood pallet to its full capacity, right, and repaired it when you were supposed to and didn't throw it away before it became unuseful, then it had a lower carbon impact on the environment. So that was what we found out. And, you know, they had the benefit of extending material waste another life cycle. So I did get a publication out of it. I'm not first author, it's third author. I was the inspiration. I didn't design the study, but I did help with the research. So that was cool that I did at least get some type of a publication out of it, which is pretty cool. And after graduating from ISE, I tried my hand at a PhD, largely after talking to Juliet, who convinced me that a PhD was the best form of project management you could ever have on your resume. And I don't regret that. I love that I tried to do this. I wasn't successful, but what I did was we were looking at environmental impacts of future sustainable food systems. So disruptive technology in the food sector and its environmental social impacts. We were an interdisciplinary team. We looked at cellular agriculture, which is growing meat in a laboratory, vertical agriculture, microbioprotein, some really cool technology. Had I been, and again, I reference mental health, it is a part of my story. And, I think if you have the healthiest brain in the world and you're living in the Nordic countries after not being born there, you're going to struggle a little bit. I struggled a lot during my PhD and, made the call to pull the plug, and I moved home. Who knows? Maybe I will return one day to finish, but, I'm grateful for where I am right now. So it is what it is. And now I'm currently working for a company called Sonoco. They are an international packaging company based in Hartsville, South Carolina, which, if we can go back, I will show you where that is for any European or other who don't know where South Carolina is. So Chicago's in the middle, where I was born and raised. And then South Carolina, if you see the A in USA, I would love to use a laser pointer, but it's not letting me. Where the A ends on the on the second stem by that palm tree, the state under that is South Carolina. So that's where I currently live. It's a lot warmer. It's currently like 12 degrees here, so December. Anyways, I'm pretty happy about that. So it was founded in more than a century ago by the Coker family, and Coker still sits as CEO. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's an interesting juxtaposition of being a highly international company. I don't know, I think it's 40 countries where we operate, but it's based in a really small town and it's family orientated where I work. The building in the picture is the IPS studio. That's where I do most of my work. So it's a really cool small town, big company, interesting juxtaposition. We make industrial paper packaging, basically packaging solutions for all different sectors. So we have industrial consumer packaging, which is shared across paper containers, rigid plastic containers like the clamshells you buy strawberries in, flexible packaging. The Oreo pull and seal technology was developed by Sunoco. You're welcome. All other, healthcare protective solutions, that type of thing. And of course, we make all the Pringles containers in the world. So some pretty cool products. And what makes Sonoco unique is that they really are vertically integrated in some senses. Like we own material recovery facilities and paper mills. So it's a full supply chain, but also really niche developments and technologies that are, I won't say sector disruptors, but are really great patents to hold. So I will see if this will play, TBD. It shows you our sustainability goals for 2025.
Doing the right thing. The right thing for the planet and people is for us to be a sustainable packaging solutions provider. Every vision needs strategic, measurable goals. So where are we headed? By 2025, we will recycle or cause to recycle 85% equivalent by weight of products we put into the marketplace. All of our production facilities utilizing plastic pellets will have systems to prevent environmental discharge. We will not use resin additives that purport to degrade in landfills or waterways by breaking into microplastics. 75% of our global rigid plastic packaging will be able to make relevant on-pack recyclable claims. We will continue to work closely with our customers to help them achieve their PCR content commitments. We will conduct water risk studies at our manufacturing facilities, which account for at least 90% of our water usage. We've made a lot of progress in each of these goals, but we're striving for more. A global cross-functional team set well-researched environmental commitments to be achieved by 2030. We have committed to validated science-based targets aligned with keeping global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius. Sunoco will reduce our absolute scope 1 and 2 emissions at least 25%. In cooperation with our suppliers and customers, we will reduce our scope 3 emissions in line with the 2 degrees Celsius absolute contraction approach, resulting in at least 13.5% absolute scope 3 emissions reductions. We will continue energy efficiency improvements in our manufacturing plants and reduce normalized energy use by at least 8%. We are already studying necessary operational changes, technology developments, and market changes that would be required to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. These goals are guiding us towards a more sustainable future, but we have a lot of exciting initiatives to celebrate today. Learn more about how Sonoco innovates with sustainability.
So, oops. What did I do? Can everyone still see the screen? Okay, give me 1 second. It's not letting me go forward. Oh, here it is. Okay. So, yeah, that was just a little bit about our sustainability commitments. And I was hesitant to work for industry just because it does get a bad rep with sustainability, that it's self-interested. But I'm very happy that I found Sunoco, because a lot of we donate millions of dollars to Clemson University for sustainability and R&D development research, the Science-Based Targets Initiative, really strong emphasis on ESG, as well as, sustainable focus as a corporation. This team, so I'm here, life cycle assessments on the right, central sustainability. I support globally, but you can see there's about 14 of us. This team did not exist a year and a half ago. Really, Sunoco went all in on sustainability, and our VP was sort of given leeway to just build a team that can develop Sunoco sustainability and really push it forward. So it's cool that everyone's new kind of at the same time. Even if they've been working at the company for a while, they're new to the sustainability team. So very collaborative environment, very fun to work in. So what I do in my role as a sustainability analyst is life cycle assessment primarily. I have a few slides showing what that is in case you're unsure, but essentially it's looking at products, comparing them to others, and evaluating them from an environmental perspective from cradle to grave. So a good example of that would be, it's a scientific method for determining environmental impacts across a decision-making process, supply chain, policy, products. You can use it for a lot of different things. And it tells us, the environmental impacts of the whole system, what phases, whether it was material impacts or end of life, that had the most impact. So I do this assessment for our products, whether we're comparing that externally, internally, to a new benchmark design. And really what it looks like, say we were looking at a plastic HDPE, a high density polyethylene package. And so I would start with raw material extraction of fossil fuels to plastic resins, converting that into our, whether that's injection molded or thermoformed tray or cup, and then looking at, in North America, what's our end of life going to be? Is it recycled? Is it landfilled? And then look at the resources taken from the environment and the impacts made to the environment. And I make a recommendation and build a slide deck and let people know sort of, okay, well, here's the trade-offs, right? Because we know sustainability doesn't have a free lunch either. There's always trade-offs and impacts based on decisions you make, whether you use aluminum foil in a liner food barrier or you use metallicized PET. So it's interesting. An example, I will say, let me just go back. I also do other things too. I do a lot of education. So we have I forget, well, we call it In the Loop, and it's our sustainability talk series. And I do LCA education. I did LCA 101. I'm going to do LCA 201 next quarter. Pretty cool that they give me the platform to talk about that. I also help with tracking certifications for recycled content. We have to track it through our supply chains if we want to claim it. So I help with that. And also calculating our scope 3 emissions, which is very difficult. So I'm on the scope 3 team. We're bravely trying to figure out what that is for Sonoco, but it encompasses everything from employee travel to purchasing. It's pretty in depth. So an example of an LCA, I didn't do this one. This was done before I got there, but it's a good example. So the cans on our right are our EnviroCan series. They're designed to be lighter or I don't want to say, and it's not biodegradable, but they're basically optimized for sustainability. And here we have an EnviroCan with a paper bottom. So think of a Pringles can. So this is a Pringles can with a paper bottom and a Pringles can with a metal end, compared to jars of the same volume. So I would put together a chart like this and say, okay, we can see from this chart, the majority of our impacts are coming from materials. So we can look at that for optimization from a sustainability perspective. Next is conversion. So that's converting the raw materials into the package itself. So we could say, okay, well, our second biggest is actually conversion for some of these. So we can look at that for opportunities to improve. And then I can tell them what specifically in the package has the highest impact, that type of thing. But we also have other cool sustainability products. We have a whole line of EnviroSense products, which is everything from cans to blister packs that have been either made with paper or made with bagasse, which is a byproduct of sugarcane. We are partnered with Amp Robotics. I wish I could show you what that looks like, but it's confidential. And it's a smart robot in a facility, a material recovery facility, that literally can visualize material as it's flowing through a recycling facility, identify it as something it needs to save, and pick it up and put it in a bin very, very quickly. It's really cool to see. Again, I wish I could show you, but we're partnering with them, and they use machine learning, which is pretty cool. And we have a lot of circular package solutions where we built in a network for it to come back to us, and we'll repair it and send it back. We have material that goes on planes and curbside recyclable full corrugate boxes. So also novel barrier coatings for food packaging. And a big thing in recycling with plastic resins right now is if you have like a black PET tray that you bought at the grocery store in your frozen food section, if it's black, and they will sort plastic resins with near infrared, NIR. So sometimes the black won't read. So they're working on developing a colorant that is black, but also will be NIR detectable. We're not doing that. We're looking with partnering with people who do that, but just really cool, sustainability initiatives that it makes it really exciting to work here, because on all fronts, they funded a 14-man sustainability team in a year. So it's very clearly important to the company, which is why I like working here. And some challenges to my job. LCA is fantastically useful, but it's hard to clearly communicate what the methodology scope is, what it's actually saying. Am I saying that with the results that I showed you on the other page, clearly communicating that these results only apply to the specific scope that was set for the research project or whatever it was, that the results can easily get misinterpreted. So that's my job, to clearly educate people on what LCA is, what it isn't, and what specifically was done in this study. So the results don't get misused by marketing or by someone else. And it's only as good as the input data. So sometimes getting primary data can be difficult. It's also difficult to accurately capture real world phenomena in a model, as we all know. So that can be challenging. And then just getting everyone to view the results with a critical eye, and get everyone's level understanding of it. When I say carbon footprint, this is what I mean. And when I say, acidification, this is what I mean. So that's where the education piece of my job comes in. And also check out our Sustainability Hub. It's new and cool, and we have all of our sustainability projects and advancements and certifications and stuff up there. So yeah, thank you. That is my presentation. You can find me. This is a forest in South Carolina. I picked up trail running. So running 50K in January, you can most likely find me on the weekends somewhere in this forest.
All right, thank you so much for this presentation. If there's anybody that has a question for Liz, now is kind of the time. Great to see everybody turning their cameras on. Yeah, there's not really a structure to this, so just open your mic and yeah, we can have a start. Okay.
Hey Liz, I have a question.
Yeah.
Thanks for the great presentation. Are there any tools or programs or models that you use that are publicly available that you found to be pretty rigorous and robust and produce results that are similar to what you would on your own?
So in order to complete life cycle assessment and carbon footprinting, we do use it's publicly available, but it's not free. So we do use LCA software and databases. There is a tool called OpenLCA, and that is free. It has, I think, generic databases that you can use. So if you were looking to do an LCA project without spending $3,000 on a software, then yeah, you could use OpenLCA.
Awesome. And that was Matt Vellante. Matt is one of our current students. Matt, are you in Iceland right now, or?
No, I'm back home.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Maybe I could take the next question. I was actually, and now I'm going to ask if you can maybe show your slide. But there was a slide that you had in the example that you gave, and I saw that there was like a section called end of life, and it had a negative impact.
Oh yeah, I get a lot of questions about that, so that's perfect. I'll reshare this. This one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so this is when I was talking about sort of challenges in my job, explaining clearly what LCA is and isn't. So when you look at this graph, you'll see end of life is, I believe, the darkest blue color here. And sometimes with HDPE, for an example, or plastic polypropylene, you will have a increase in carbon emissions from its end of life. For things like our EnviroCan, which is primarily paper-based solutions, as well as things that you can recycle, you will get a negative end of life. And that means you're getting essentially a carbon credit because you recycled or could recover some of this material. So if I recovered 1 kilogram of plastic packaging from an end of life recycling, so I was able to reuse 1 kilogram of that packaging, I would get a credit, depending on how you plan the LCA, of basically not having to create 1 kilogram of that material. So you get a credit for material. It's basically essentially saying, I didn't have to make this material from a virgin source, so I'm going to give you the credit of saying I didn't have to produce this. So recycling results in a negative end of life, which again, if you ever seen this for the first time, it is very confusing. So that's a good question.
Okay, well, I think that explained it really well. Yeah, I definitely, like, as I saw some had positive, I'm like, okay, and then yeah, and it looks like this EnviroCan, with the paper bottom, has actually this a negative credit at the end.
Yes, because we're able to recover the paper.
Yeah.
So we get a credit for recycling. And and how much credit to give for recycling is a big debate in the LCA community. Some say all of it, some say half of it, some say none of it. So, and there's no international standard on how to do it. There's standards on how to do life cycle assessment, but not end of life allocation on a global scale.
Cool. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
If there's anybody else.
Anybody?
I had a meeting, so I joined late, so I'm sure I would have had question, but I literally got here on like your second to last slide.
That's fair.
So I will watch again and then reach out to you.
Thanks, Caroline. It's good to see you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, Renata?
So you mentioned that the sustainability team at Sonoco is quite new.
Mhm.
So I guess it's kind of a two-part question. One, what was like the precursor that like sparked the decision to make this like all-in sustainability team? And two, have there been any road bumps in putting together such a large team in a short amount of time?
That's a really good question. I should clarify. So the team itself is new, but you have employees who are on the team who have been at Sunoco. I think, Sabrina is one of them. She has been, I believe, with Sunoco for over 20 years. I'm sorry, Sabrina, if I get that wrong. So you have people who are very knowledgeable about the company, like our vice president of sustainability has been there for a very long time too. And so I can't speak. She was the one who was given lease to assemble the team. So I'm not sure what she would say that the road bumps were in sort of getting this implemented. In terms of what sparked it, I did have a one-on-one meet and greet with our CEO, and he said that what really drove putting the sustainability together was obviously concern for sustainability being number one, but also, having a scenario arise when Sunoco's products sustainability was taken into question and we didn't have any data or any sort of monitoring of what it was, so we could defend our products from a sustainability perspective, I think was a big driver, he said, in forming the sustainability team.
Very cool. Thank you for your answer and a wonderful presentation.
Thanks, Renata.
I have maybe the stereotypical administrative question from a university.
Okay.
Which is, what would you recommend, or what advice would you give to a prospective student looking to study, sustainable energy or sustainability in general?
Go big. And I think, especially if they're at ISE and just looking to study sustainability in general, I mean, that is the time to sort of just go for it. I mean, I think I'm saying that because of my experience in just sending out cold emails to the European Commission, like, who was I, just putting your name out there, throwing your name out there, saying yes to opportunities you think, wouldn't have come around, or maybe you're not sure about, just getting yourself out there and learning and trying a lot of different things and failing. Don't be afraid to fail. Because I learned a lot from that PhD experience, even though I wasn't successful.
Yeah, and I really like your story, partially because it's very, not to say that other stories aren't real, but you really discuss that it's not all rosy and picture perfect, but that there are challenges, and that if given the opportunity, you can learn from these challenges and end up growing as a person and finding, the place that you are now. So I think that I really enjoyed that. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
Well, I think we are getting ready to kind of wrap up, but if I just want to maybe ask one more round, if there's any last questions for Liz, now would be a good time.
How warm is it right now?
It is currently 50. Oh no, it's actually 44 degrees. So it's a little bit colder today because the sun's not out. So that is 6 degrees, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
6 or 7 degrees Celsius. So I did lie earlier when I said it was 12. Yeah, usually it was in the 70s last week, which is like 17 degrees. Yeah. So not bad. Although I will say it doesn't feel like Christmas because I grew up in the north part of the US and it's usually as cold as Iceland, temperature wise during Christmas time. So to see Christmas lights wrapped around a palm tree is very new to me. It's very strange.
Cool. Okay, one more question that I would have is,
Mhm.
so you had mentioned you started running.
Yeah.
So do you have any like big plans for that?
Yeah. So I've done 2 marathons. I did the Chicago Marathon in this fall. So that was in October. And now I'm going ultra because I'm extra. And so I'm running a 50K, that's 31 miles, January 8th. And it's a trail race. So it's very different from what I've been doing running on the road. So I've been spending a lot of time in the state parks here, which are really beautiful, and learning how to run on trails without breaking ankles because I've done that before. And yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna hurt, but it's gonna be also a really fun challenge.
It blows my mind when you say that because I run on a treadmill and I trip over my own feet there. So well, that
I
is
mean, yeah. In Finland, when I was living there during the internship that I talked about for Cirques and Lappeenranta, I was 1.5 miles, 2 miles into the woods and wasn't looking down because you should always look down when you're in a forest. Then I fell and broke my ankle and called the family I was living with at the time because I was renting a room from them. And they were like, middle of the forest isn't a location. Like we can't pick you up. So you have to get to a street. So I literally had to like revenant my way out of the forest with a makeshift stick and a broken ankle. So yeah,
At least you had your
Finland.
phone. I said, at least you had your phone.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I wasn't in any danger from like wildlife or people, but it was just still like walking that mile on the broken ankle was challenging to say the least.
And as far as you knew, I mean, from wildlife.
Yeah, there are bears, but they're small bears. They're not grizzlies. So I felt, I don't know, confident that I could like make myself big and scare them off.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Maybe it was a misplaced confidence. We'll never know.
Well, you're here now and you're safe. So
There you go.
Can everybody join me in giving Liz one more round of applause? I've just got a little thing on the top that I can also maybe do this.
Thanks, guys.
Liz,
Ooh, I like that one.
thank you so much for your time here, and coming on the show and just talking to our students. And if anybody, because this is kind of wrapping up, at least a lot of people are getting ready for the holidays. So if anybody missed this show, can they reach out to you if they have questions or?
Yeah, absolutely. We can include my LinkedIn and and my email. So you're more than welcome to reach out to me with any questions, especially students. I'm here as a resource. So
amazing. Okay, thank you, Liz, so much.